and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Today we are joined by author of The Vanishing Hitchhiker, Belle Zimet. Is it Bella or Belly? Bella? Or
It's
just
Belle.
Belle. Belle, just
Yeah.
Belle. Yeah. The E on the end, I was like, is it Belly or Bella? So I was a little bit conflicted on that, but I thought, well, we'll just play it out. I've made a fool of myself on the mic before. All right, just for to give you a little bit of heads up here. There we go. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so like I said, I usually do research on my guests, and it's the most enjoyable part. Not just speaking to you, but getting to dive into you. I never like to look up my. Yes, it is a hit. You should. We have someone commented about your book in the room. Wonderful. So basically, I try not to look anything about my authors before the day before. So that way everything's new and exciting, and I get to dive a little deeper into my guest. So with that in mind, guess which platform that I found you mostly on?
Could it be TikTok?
Yes.
Wow.
So I thought we would have some fun with that. I thought today's interview would basically be honed around your TikTok presence. What do you think?
Sounds great to me.
Awesome. Okay, so I was going to take a sip of coffee, but the words keep coming out. So, so with that in mind, let's talk some TikTok. As in TikTok. Tell me, why the platform? I mean, to reach your readers. What made you decide that this was the best reach out for you as an author?
I think it's the best way to really get a sense of somebody's personality. And there's such a huge platform there for people that just love books. Book Talk is just this really great way of connecting directly with readers and other authors, which is so fun and valuable to me.
Okay, so when you talk book talk, are you talking like a hashtag book talk? Or are you talking about another singular platform?
It is on TikTok, and basically the more you interact with your interests, the algorithm kind of takes over and you start to see mostly that in your feeds. So the more I interact with people that do like book talk type things or review books or write, the more that I see that in my For You page. And you just kind of get into this whole culture surrounding books on TikTok. And it's just a lot of fun.
Okay. Now I have to I have actually your TikTok up. So I am gonna scroll here a second. Hold on. Okay. So you put book talk, not talk. Okay, got that. All right. So it's book and then TOK. That's
Yes.
interesting. Nice. I'm making some notes off here on the side.
Mhm.
And okay, and so you do bookish For You authors. Now, have you noticed that this really brings more activity when you post something?
It's kind of controversial whether it does anything or not. But, I figure I will cover my bases and put those time-honored hashtags in there in hopes that it reaches the right audience. But at the very least, you can kind of look down and see what you're getting into at the beginning of the video by knowing, okay, this is going to be book related, author related, so on and so forth.
Right. Okay, so Doss in our room makes an interesting question. He says, or she, I'm sorry. I've got my light here, so I'm not. I can't see the pictures that great because I've got this big old ring light for the camera on my face.
Oh, it's blinding.
No,
blinding, that ring light.
Oh my goch, right? I did have some small ones, but they blew out. Now I've got this massive big thing in here, and it's a small room. So if you watch the video later and I'm perspiring, you'll know exactly why. Anyway, so I'm sorry, Doss. No question is ignorance. There's no ignorance in any questions. You have a valid point. So he or she asks, so TikTok isn't just people filming themselves doing stupid stuff. There's an interesting question for you. What do you say to that?
Oh, it isn't. I totally get why, because I think most of the press has to do with some of the sillier things that youths do on there, and some of the, kind of questionable trends that happen. But there is basically a TikTok for everybody, every age. There's a lot of over 40, over 50, over 60. There's all these hashtags, and it's just a big platform for music, for film, for books, for culture, for travel. You can find anything you want on there.
Well, and you know what? You make a valid point as far as what we were talking about, using it for your interests, such as your books. And you can also take the sillier videos and build on those. And can you tell us how that can be possible?
Yes, I think the best way to really engage is to get on those trends. Of course, they need to kind of fit your niche. You kind of need to niche down with that. But then if you do that, people, have recognition. They hear the sounds and they realize, oh, it's going to be a takeoff of this funny thing or that funny thing. And then you make it relevant to you and what you're doing, whatever your business is. In my case, it's author.
Right, exactly. And there's a way to do that too. I mean, as far as taking someone else's video, and don't you have a reaction where you can do a reaction to their video?
Yes, I haven't done any of those necessarily. I do stitches, where I kind of take some of their video and then riff off of it in my own way. But yeah, you can do reactions. Say you have like somebody do a really nice review of your book. You can film your reaction and be able to put that out there for everybody to see how that affected you.
Cool. Now, have you noticed there's a lot of reviews on TikToks for books?
There are. Generally speaking, it's usually like the New York Times bestsellers. But there is a place on there also for indie authors and smaller authors. And I've seen a lot of authors blow up on there just because, the right book talker. I know I keep saying that. I'm so in my lingo. You get the right person on there that reviews that book and it hits like wildfire. So it's pretty cool.
Dosh, you're hilarious.
Thanks.
Well, you are too. Doss is up here and he commented on your TikTok, and I'm sure you're probably more ear to your phone on this, so I will read it for you just in case you're missing it. He or she says, I would do some more research, but not knowing myself, I would eventually gravitate to the videos of people lighting their farts on fire. I'll be honest of that with you. Too. I will be honest with you. I could get sucked into, you know what I mean? You just keep scrolling. And next thing you know, an hour has went by. And I'll be honest with you. Sometimes when I get sucked in, I'm either in the tub or, and this is probably something you don't want to hear, I'm either on the toilet. I'm just sorry to say that's kind of how it rolls. And literally.
That's probably most people.
Right? And hours go by and you're like, first your feet are going tingly because you've been sitting there for so long, and the next you're like, holy crap, time has really went. That's where Doss is right now. Nice to know.
That's right, Doss.
It's all right.
Learning so much more than you needed to, Doss.
Okay, so as we're talking about content in general on TikTok, let's talk a little bit about your content. Let's talk about how you decide to create your TikTok content. Tell me how that rolls by you.
So I'm kind of all over the place. I do all kinds of things on there. I kind of started out singing, but then I realized I wanted to just go kind of mostly author. And that's what I ended up doing. I started with book trailers, that I can make on there with music, with images. And then, sometimes I do like heart to hearts where I, talk about things in regards to being an author or an indie author. And then sometimes I just do jokey videos based on trends because we have like, our own little subculture on there. Right. And you start to see the same type of things over and over again, and everybody's in on the joke that's kind of on that side of TikTok. And so then it ends up being really funny and it's connective.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I have to say, well, I'm going to skip that question. I'm going to skip that question because I want to go down here. So when we're talking about your videos, and we might go back to this other question if we have time, I'm going to circle that. Let's talk about the videos on your channel as far as where it comes to your books. And one specifically I want to talk about is the Vanishing Hitchhiker books. How do these ideas come? I mean, what is your premise when you start them? Is it just to bring attention, or do you have a little bit more ulterior motive?
I think, well, I mean, I've just always loved urban legends. So I really wanted to kind of take the more ubiquitous ones and put my own spin on it, which I think is such an appropriate thing for urban legends, considering it's just kind of like this giant game of telephone, where you heard from your cousin's second, brother's twice removed dentist, that they saw this or that, but of course there's no proof.
Right.
So I took these things from my childhood because I grew up before the internet, really, in those best years of slumber parties. And I just kind of took those stories and I decided to just add to it, be my own game of telephone and be like, hey, here's what I have to say about it. So I take the story ideas, and then I just come up with my own ideas for where these legends came from, why they are, and how to solve them.
Okay. All right. So that's a little bit more about the book, not necessarily the TikTok videos for that, but I'll take it.
Yes. There you go.
Okay. So basically that's speaking about the book itself, what you were just telling us, correct?
Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. All right. What I was going to do, my intention of that was to bring in your videos about the Vanishing and then bring down to the book. But that's okay. That's all right. We'll skip a step.
Yeah, look at me. I'm just one step ahead.
That's all right. Hey, no, you're perfectly fine. Sometimes, I'll tell you what, I've had some interviews before I even get the first two words out of the question, the author has already answered my question and I didn't even get the question out. So you're okay. It's fine.
All right.
It really is. Okay, so let's go back to the TikTok video. So we've talked about the books. Let's step back and tell me about the videos for the Vanishing Hitchhiker.
Yes. Okay. So those I have just basically, I think I've only done a few, but there is a trailer for it. And then there was another one. There's a trend on there where you kind of say something like it happened to you, and then you reveal, oh, it's actually the plot of my book, and here's where it's sold. So that's, that's one that I've done on there. So yeah, I just kind of put text on there and video and sound to make it seem like this is what happened to me on my way. Like I picked up this Vanishing Hitchhiker. And then like, oh, just kidding. It's in the book.
Well, you bring attention to it. And I think that is the biggest point we need to take away from this, is that you bring point to the work and you do it in a way that's entertaining and doesn't make it like you're doing spam, if that makes sense. Because sometimes we get into the whole social media marketing and that's all it becomes, you know what I mean, is another grab for what we're doing. And in a sense, what you're doing is you're making it more entertaining to want to engage with you, not just as an author, but as a TikTok influencer. Can we say that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a way of delivering that hook. In a way that isn't so invasive and in your face. So yeah, exactly. I like to balance it. I like to balance it out between selling and just, being a personality on there.
Right. I enjoy your videos. I actually follow you. So how's that?
Thanks, friend.
You're welcome.
Vice versa.
Well, thank you. So let's talk about Mortimer. For all those who haven't and have not heard about Mortimer and haven't had the privilege of seeing your TikTok videos, tell us a little bit about Mortimer.
Oh, yes. Mortimer was a ghost in a townhouse I lived in my early 20s. I lived in this really fun neighborhood called Ocean Beach in California. And it's kind of this hippie vibe. It's right there on the ocean. It's kind of ramshackle, but in a charming way. So we had this townhouse there and I had all these revolving roommates because it was 3 bedrooms and everybody was like in their 20s. But we had this ghost that kind of showed himself to every single person there for the many years that I lived there. And he would just kind of do the funniest things. He wasn't malevolent at all, more puckish. He would move things. He would turn on lights. He would flush the toilet and then turn on the sink like he was washing his hands. And this is all while people are just kind of sitting in the living room like, what is happening here?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. People came in non-believers and they left believers.
Really?
Absolutely, because I think I had it must have been 15, 16 different roommates there in my tenure. Like just all revolving through these 3 bedrooms. It's such like a transitory time in life in the early 20s, people moving out with boyfriends or going to college and I don't think anybody ever actually left because of Mortimer, but he was a very interesting feature while they lived there.
Well, Doss is talking about he or she's a non-believer. Now, I'll be honest with you. I haven't ever seen anything, but I've gotten do you know where you think you get things at side of your eye? And so I'm not a non-believer, although I have not ever had, you know what I mean? And which I don't know if I could handle seeing it. I think I would be like, oh, you know what I mean? I don't think that I would be, you know what I mean? The one who would be able to have a conversation with them. But
no, me either.
Yeah.
I was not interested in his full body apparition. And honestly, after the first kind of incidences that I had with him where I did see him out of the corner of my eye and he did turn up the stereo really, really loud and then back down before I could touch it again. I just kind of said, I named him Mortimer. I don't know what his actual name was. Maybe that's why he was mad. He's like, why are you naming me this? But I was just like, hey, Mortimer, you can stay here. I just don't ever really want to see you in person. Or in ghost form. And never again. We never saw him again until after I moved out. And then I kept in touch with a roommate that was still living there. And she said that basically once I moved out, she woke up with him floating over her bed.
Now see, my mother had that happen when she was young. Yes, she was in bed. And back then, they shared the girls all shared the one bed and they were all sleeping together and she was awake. She just felt something eerie and she woke up and she saw this woman just draped in black go from the tip of the bed all the way back down to the foot of her bed. And she remembers it specifically still to this day. And I think she said it was at a time that her grandmother passed and that she had saw that. So I do believe that it is possible. I have never had that unique experience. So, and I'm not sure I want to, you know what I mean? I think I would be too freaking freaked out. You know what I mean? Right out here, I'm in the she shed now. And just to go back, I have to go through the dark to get to the house. So I'm not sure I want, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can handle that. I think I would be in a freak show just getting from the house to the shed every day.
I mean, it's definitely off-putting and it's a very strange feeling. And half the time when these things happen, you kind of have to did that really just happen? It's so beyond belief when it does occur that it's kind of hard to grasp or react really. But I kind of court it. Anytime I go traveling somewhere, I'm on ghost tours, just like you would expect with me. If there's a haunted hotel, I'm staying in it. But at the same time, I also don't necessarily want a free floating apparition to be like, hey, how are you doing? How's your night? I don't.
I like hearing the stories, like what you write. You know what I mean? I like hearing the stories. Have you ever heard of Hollow Reads? It used to be, I'm not sure if they still do them, but I went to a couple of their book events, but you can also go on tours where they've had haunted places, and it's in Maryland. I know. This is something you might want to look up. It's around October. It's in Maryland, and they take you on ghost tours. And it is quite interesting. And they'll tell you, and you get to hear a little bit about the history. Oh, yeah. The last year was in 2019. Yeah, probably with COVID and everything, too.
Right.
But it was very interesting. So just to get it back to your video stands a little bit, tell me about the one video that stands out in your mind as your best creation so far.
I've had a couple on there. I've had a few book trailers that I was really actually very proud of. Just like I felt like they really captured what I was going for in terms of the tone of my book as being spooky and fun. I love telling stories on there. And let's see, if there's one specifically, I actually just put out one that I thought was pretty fun just because it was cut properly and timed properly, which is kind of an art all on its own on there, trying to put stuff together so that it makes sense. But in terms of like exactly one that stands out, I don't know if I have any. It's been like 100 of them, so they kind of are all kind of mushing together in my brain as I'm scrolling through them.
Out of you have about over 3,000 likes. Mm. You have over 1,300 followers.
Yeah.
So I would say that you're doing something pretty well.
Thank you.
I'll just put that out there. Pretty amazing. So props.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So with our final question tonight, and don't feel rushed on this, okay? Because even if my timer goes off, I just do the timer so I can keep myself in check. But tell me one thing we can look forward to for coming from you, what we can look forward to, and tell me why.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm always attempting to provide spooky, fun, romantic entertainment. I have, 2 in my Urban Legends series out. My third one that I'm working on right now, I'm very, very excited for. It's going to be Ghost Ship. So it's going to be, it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a little pirate themed, kind of nautical, spooky. So I'm very excited for that. And I am also deciding to foray into contemporary romance as well. So I am both writing Ghost Ship and I am also writing just a fun, usual contemporary romance because I really enjoy that genre too. Right. And obviously I will continue TikToking.
Well, you better. I want to go back just a little bit to your question. So is this your first time as a contemporary romance?
Yes, this is my first time just attempting, a straight no romance all romance, no spooky and extra spicy. So yes, that's going to be my first time putting that out there. And so that's so fun. It's just a fun thing to explore.
How far along are you on that?
I think I'm only about 4,000 words in, but I have it completely mapped out.
Nice.
And I am looking forward to it and seeing what comes up with it.
Well, make sure you tag me when it is out, and I will help push that along, especially on Twitter on that. So let me know. Tag me on that, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, you're
welcome. Would love to.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the program tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, anytime. I want to thank, again, all of our audience for coming in. Das, your commentary is awesome.
Your Laura, gold, Das.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Thank you again, everybody. Stay tuned to next Thursday when we have our next interview. Thank you again, everybody, for coming in. Have a good night. See you later. Bye-bye.